The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, visit an exhibition at the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures that celebrates the groundbreaking special effects created by a true legend of filmmaking, Ray Harryhausen. I'll talk with Evan Williams, a composer, conductor, and professor of music at Berklee, about writing a contemporary concerto for the harpsichord. And we'll hear about a new immersive stage presentation of Night of the Living Dead, happening at the Pima Community College West Campus, that blends live performance with actual footage from the 1968 movie. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. I doubt that a 13-year-old Ray Harryhausen suspected that his entire life would be transformed when he went to see King Kong in 1933, the year of its release. But it did transform his life, and the amazing work that Harryhausen created in the decades to follow will continue to transform the lives of film lovers for the rest of human history. Mention Jason and the Argonauts, Earth versus the Flying Saucers, the Sinbad series, or Clash of the Titans to anyone who embraces cinema of the imagination, and you'll get back a smile and see a twinkle in their eye. Directors including George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Peter Jackson, and Tim Burton have all talked often about the direct influence that Ray Harryhausen had on them. It inspired them to experiment with plastic dinosaurs and stop-motion animation long before their professional film careers began. Ray Harryhausen passed away in 2013, but many of his most famous models, the actual creations that Harryhausen would sculpt and build himself before making them seem to come to life through a process he called dynamation, they're on display right now in Tucson. The traveling exhibition, Ray Harryhausen, Miniature Models of the Silver Screen, is at the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures. And I went there to see this menagerie in person after being thrilled by their movie appearances for my entire life. And I also got to make some new friends. Could you introduce yourself for me, please?
So I'm Connor Heaney, and I'm the collections manager for the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation.
I'm Vanessa Harryhausen, Ray's daughter.
What was it like to grow up with the man that so many film fans wanted to be their dad? I looked at Ray as being like this Father Christmas character.
He was wonderful, and I was very lucky to be able to go up into his workshop and his office, and he had a lot of these creatures here that I could look at and play with.
He let you do that?
Oh yeah, no problem.
I thought I was pretty well educated about the process behind dynamation. I'm still shocked when I see the actual size of these characters. They are so much smaller than even I anticipated. But the humanity, if you can say that your father would get out of these tiny figurines was tremendous.
I know each had their own individual character and mood and facial expression or whatever, or eye expression. So yeah, it was amazing to see that.
And he always gave them bits of business to do, little things like, scratching their armpits or something, to bring them even more to life. In her autobiography, Candace Bergen talks about being very jealous of Charlie McCarthy when she was little. He got to go to work with her dad. Dad would pack him up in the box and take off. Dad would rehearse with him, practice. And so she began to develop kind of a sibling rivalry. Did you ever have any kind of feelings like that? Was there ever a feeling that, Dad, you should be playing with me right now?
No, not at all, because I had access to all of this upstairs. I could go up, open the cupboard and ask him, and he'd say, which one do you want today? And I'd sit there and we'd chat about it or whatever. And it was, they were like my sort of brothers and sisters, and I looked at them as sort of, not like pets, but I think because I had a reverence towards them, I was allowed to play with them.
Recently, I saw a photograph. It was a collection of luminaries, including Ray Bradbury, Ray Harryhausen, Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, and of course, Forrest Ackerman, Vincent Price. Mm-hmm. Do you have any special memories from your childhood of this sort of cadre of famous uncles that you had sort of inherited?
Well, Daddy always used to see Ray Bradbury and Uncle Fari. So yeah, when we were over in the States, we'd go for lunches and dinners and spend time in each other's houses. So it was great. And when the three of them got together, you know, Ray and Forey and Uncle Ray, it was like three naughty teenagers getting together and having a good old debate about whatever was happening in the day. So it was lovely, and they were just great uncles.
And their generation, sadly, is now
I know,
almost completely
past.
gone.
Yeah.
Your father was one of the last.
I know. He was very sad when Ray Bradbury passed, and he said, "I'm the last of the dinosaurs here." And I was like, "Oh gosh, Dad, I'm sorry." I mean, what do you say?
Connor, I think it's something that special effects fans like myself definitely are aware of, is that the generation that grew up seeing King Kong in the theaters, like Ray Harryhausen did at age 13, these gentlemen who wanted to get into the craft, they learned how to paint, they learned how to draw, they did studies of the natural world, of the human body, of anatomy. They built this incredible background in classic art to develop something new. But with the advent of computer-generated effects, the person creating the creature and animating that creature is whoever can run the software. Maybe never painted in their life, never done a study.
I think if you look at the first Jurassic Park film, for example, which was groundbreaking, the CGI in that movie still is incredible. Mm-hmm. The people who built the dinosaurs in that movie
Phil
were
Tippett and
Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren and all the others. They'd grown up as stop motion animators, so they knew how to give the creatures weight and gravity and personality. And Phil Tippett is quoted as saying, you know, with his team, if they're stuck on what to do, he tells them to go back and look at what Ray Harryhausen did. So the fundamentals are there. You're using different software and different tools, but the fundamentals about how to infuse life into your creatures is something that that Willis O'Brien and then Ray Harryhausen really, you know, developed. You know, at the beginning, at the very beginnings of blockbuster cinema, and so there's something tangible there, which I think is easier to lose with computer generated, but not completely. I think it's just another tool to tell a story. I think that's what Ray always said. He didn't have anything against CGI per se. It's just another way of telling a story, and if the movie's good, then the special effects will enhance that.
I want to know how you got your job. I want to know how you found this big of a career day.
Well, it's quite interesting. There was no career day, put it that way. So I did an archaeology degree, and then I went on to work with Historic Scotland, the government organisation. I specifically was working with aerial photography, first for Neolithic archaeology in Scotland, and then for World War II photography, so reconnaissance photography, these brave chaps who flew in Spitfires over Germany. That was a very interesting job, but then I saw a post for film collection, in inverted commas, deliberately very vague, didn't describe what the job was. And then I applied and got this letter to say it was the Ray Harryhausen collection, and nearly fell off my chair because I knew fine who Ray was. My mum brought us up on Ray's films, I should say. She did a classics degree because of her love of Jason and the Argonauts, so I thought there must have been some mistake. I thought, why would this be in Scotland of all places? And you know, I knew Ray was an American man. I assumed there must be some lawyer in Edinburgh with the name Ray Harryhausen, and it was all just a coincidence. But then I went along to my job interview, and it was Vanessa interviewing me alongside Caroline Munro, of course, the famous actress from The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and John Walsh, who's a film director from London. So that in itself was a very enjoyable and surreal job interview. And as luck would have it, I was selected for the role, and it's been a wonderful journey ever since. I've got to see so many incredible places, and I've got the privilege, I suppose, of interacting directly with Ray Harryhausen's original models and artworks. I mean, what an incredible collection it is. It's one of the greatest collections, I think, in the world, and people are very lucky that Ray established the foundation so that exhibitions like this one in Tucson can go ahead.
Vanessa, why is it that Scotland became your home base?
Well, it's probably my ancestry background. Mum was Scottish, and her great-great-grandfather was David Livingstone, the explorer. And I've always loved Scotland, and I just wanted to go back up there.
And you had to oversee the transfer of all these models. Where were they at that time, in California?
Some of them were in California. Dad couldn't actually remember. He asked me to fly out and go and see what he had left in the garage. And came back with 16 boxes of different items and some wonderful creatures that he had forgotten about, including some of the early puppets that you see in the front here. It was quite mind-boggling that he had forgotten them in the garage in America.
I saw Clash of the Titans so many times in theaters, but I look at the Medusa and I just can't believe that is the Medusa from that scene that played so many times on the screen for me and also played so many times in my imagination.
That's right, and generally the scale of Ray's models stayed fairly consistent. There's one or two models that are unusually large. The Kraken, for example, the largest Kraken model was kind of the size of a human head and torso, and then at the other side of things there was a Bubo the Owl model, which is about the size of your thumbnail, absolutely tiny. So Ray used scale very effectively in his films, and for a movie like Clash of the Titans, which did have a slightly larger budget than his other films, he was able to create multiple models and create these incredible illusions of interaction and scale.
Why is there a armature of the Cyclops in this case instead of a completed model?
Well, this is all that remains for the Cyclops, the iconic Cyclops from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Probably one of the most important creatures that Ray ever made, and the impact that it had on a generation of filmgoers. The Cyclops sadly no longer has his latex coating, so all that remains is the armature. Ray had to strip the model down because he needed to reuse one of the armature parts. It's a leg that was taken in use for Calabos, actually. And so we have had a replacement leg made so that the model can stand. But we have the original Cyclops armature from 1958 standing next to a bronze that Ray created. So Ray started to sculpt bronzes as a lasting monument to some of his most iconic creatures.
You know, my show is only 29 minutes.
Oh,
And I've already got enough for the interview segment, but it's just lovely to talk to both of you.
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you to yourself and all the fans out there. It's you guys that are keeping my dad's collection alive and the memories. And thank you so, so much for, coming and seeing this and keeping his memory alive.
I think back to when he was 13 years old and he went to see King Kong. Part of him never left that theater in a way.
No. You've got to realize a child in each of us.
Thanks to Vanessa Harryhausen and Connor Heaney of the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation. Ray Harryhausen, Miniature Models of the Silver Screen, is on display at the Mini Time Machine Museum of Miniatures now through May of 2026. Classroom visits are welcome, and every other Sunday, the museum will screen matinees of a very rare collection of Harryhausen shorts based on Mother Goose stories. There's a complete rundown of events online at theminitimemachine.org, and we have many photos on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. When I heard the name of a piece of music that forms the centerpiece of an upcoming performance at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, I immediately reached out to get an interview with the composer. It's called Dead White Man Music, a modern harpsichord concerto by African-American composer Evan Williams. It draws from a host of influences, including Bach, Nina Simone, Julius Eastman, post-minimalism, and rock and roll. Williams is a professor at the prestigious Berklee School of Music in Boston. I started by asking him where his omnivorous musical appetite came from.
Part of it was my upbringing. I had parents that liked all kinds of music. My parents liked to listen to classic rock, jazz, hip-hop, gospel, everything. I like to say everything except for metal and country music. But I'm now, as I get older, I actually have started to listen to both of those genres as well. And for me, when I was in college, For some reason, I let my fellow composer friends, my teachers never told me this, but my fellow composer friends would like kind of say things like, oh, well, now you're a serious musician and, you don't have to think about pop music or rap music anymore. And I kind of let that get to my head. And I finally let that go in grad school after I took an ethnomusicology class and just realized that this whole idea of the supremacy of Western art music is just a lie. Yeah. And even in like times like Beethoven and Mozart, they like did variations on popular tunes of their time. And so like, I just decided, well, I'm done with that. I like all this kind of music. I've grown up listening to all this music. And I think that's when people started caring about my voice as a composer because I stopped trying to be something else. I decided to be who I was. And who I am is a person with very strange and eclectic interests.
What is the name of the piece of music that the audience will be listening to at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix on October 17th?
So this is my piece, Dead White Man Music. It is a concerto for harpsichord and chamber ensemble. I assume you would like to know how I came about that title.
Yes, I would. And I think the question that goes with that is, what is the story that this composition is telling, Evan?
Yeah. When I was in college, I did not get the chance to study any music by women or people of color other than my time playing trombone in the jazz band when we played jazz. But I had not heard any classical music by a black composer until after I left college. And for a long time, that actually made me believe that there were no famous black composers and that perhaps I was going to be one of the first. And finally, when I actually started researching, I realized, oh my goodness, there have always been renowned and celebrated black composers from the time of the Baroque period with people like Ignacio Sancho, the classical period with Joseph Boulogne, the Chevaliers de Saint George, to the modern period. And for some reason, just unlike a lot of the white composers like Mozart, Beethoven, and Brahms, their music disappears after they died. There's no one to champion their works. Well, maybe I'm not welcome here as a black young composer. Maybe once I die, no one's going to care about my music. Is this art form for and by dead white men? Because even, in this day and age, we're starting to improve a lot over the last 10 years, but you can go to an orchestra concert still these days and not hear any music other than dead European males.
Correct.
And I just think that's crazy. Even in Mozart's and Beethoven's time, they were playing the modern music of their time. It wasn't natural, as it were, to go back and just play all the hits of the medieval period. The orchestras were seen as modern bands playing modern music. For a long time, it didn't really seem to exist in the United States. And so I asked myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And that's what this piece is asking. It's actually basically a discussion with myself. It's like, why am I doing this? Why should I be doing this? And who should I be looking to as my inspirations? A lot of people hear the name of this concerto and they think, oh my God, here's a person who hates white composers. Like, no, you can tell that I am absolutely in love with Bach when you listen to this piece.
Having someone in your field stand up like you were doing, I think is very important. As a professor at Berkeley, I would think a lot of people in the audience, especially those who have musical aspirations of any sort, they might want to get a little bit of free education from you. Evan Williams, can you share with me a couple of life-changing pieces of music? Now,
love to.
These can be things that change your life. Maybe they're not going to change everyone's.
Yeah. So briefly, Mahler's Second Symphony. Every time I listen to it, I tear up, especially the end. I actually have a tattoo on my left arm that says, Bereite dich zu leben, prepare yourself to live. I think the idea of overcoming the strife of life, the idea of death and resurrection as both literal and metaphorical is just really beautiful. As someone who recently lost his father, I think a lot about that. What does it mean to live on through art or through the life for work she did in life. And so this is also going to make me seem like I'm a dark person, but my other very favorite piece is Verdi's Requiem. I love Verdi's Requiem. It's such a powerful piece of music. It's like at times terrifying and at times it's extraordinarily beautiful. And I love every moment of it. And another piece that absolutely changed my life and is the reason I'm a music professor today and not perhaps a lawyer, because I almost thought about quitting music, is a piece by a composer named David Maslanka. It's for wind ensemble, and it's called A Child's Garden of Dreams. And when I performed it as an undergrad at Lawrence University in Wisconsin as a trombonist, I was on the fence about, do I really want to keep writing music? All the composers that my teachers are teaching me about, I hate. I think I don't like this very dissonant and atonal and experimental music, which of course now I've come around to. But this piece combined some of these really interesting dissonant and atonal and experimental elements with really beautiful musical elements and really romantic sort of expression. And from that moment on, I said, okay, now I see how I can still be a composer. So those are my three top Desert Island, the three pieces that have changed my life so far.
Evan Williams' Dead White Man Music is one of 4 selections to be performed by the Musica Nova Orchestra on Friday, October 17th at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. There's a link to more information on the Spotlight page at azpm.org.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
That is one of the most famous lines of dialogue in horror movie history, and it's said in jest at the beginning of the 1968 George Romero classic Night of the Living Dead. But it ends up being an eerie precursor of a global zombie pandemic. Just in time for Halloween, a new adaptation of Night of the Living Dead is being performed by a cast of young actors at Pima Community College's West Campus. Making this version unique is the inclusion of actual film elements being projected on the stage, creating an immersive environment for the actors and the audience. It's adapted and directed by Chris Will, and he joins me now to discuss the concept. Also with us are 2 of the actors. Kia Benson, who plays the story's central character, this time named Bev instead of Ben, and Caden Wilfong, who plays Harry, another hapless victim trying to survive this inexplicable nightmare.
Yeah, so a year ago, we're doing Dracula at Pima, and it sells out. And I've been there for 8 years, and I've never seen an entire run sell out like that before. So we were like, okay, is it Halloween? Is it, scary, like time of year? Let's go. So during that run, we were kind of brainstorming on, well, what's our next Halloween show? So we look at some stuff and look, Google, scary stories to play a Halloween. Of course, Night of the Living Dead comes to the top of the list. And that was interesting because that was the moment I realized that it was public domain. So we decided to do our own adaptation. A couple months go by, and I'm in Ireland watching the Scottish play. This is in a theater, but still, just in case.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, without any warning, they start projecting videos onto the stage. And it's like the stage disappeared, and it was just the film. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, you don't necessarily need a screen to show video. Like, video and light will go where it needs to. So I'm like in the middle of this production and kind of brainstorming my own adaptation, how we're going to do this. And I was like, well, what if we use part of the film and live actors to kind of tell the story? And so that night after that production of the Scottish play, I go home and I look at how much footage is without actors. So it's just the space, just zombies and whatnot. And there's like a good 20 minutes of footage. And I was like, we could do this. And it's interesting because not that many people are doing what we've done. So we don't really have people to look at. I think the closest thing we found was like Rocky Horror Show where people perform in front of the film. But what we're doing is like the film and the live are one story together. And you start telling people about it and they're like, oh, that's cool. I would go see that. I'm like, cool. Well, you have your opportunity in October.
Before you auditioned for this performance, Kia and Caden, did you either one have any experience with Night of the Living Dead?
No, actually, I've never seen it before. I had known a little bit about it, but I had no idea what it really was about.
I'd seen it several times at this point.
You look like the kind who would.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
I think there's some kinship between us.
Thank you.
Okay. So what did you think when you did get to see it then, Kia?
I was honestly blown away. I remember before I even signed up to audition, I decided to try to watch the film. I was at Pima and I was hanging out helping people sign in for some community auditions that were going on, and I decided to play it on YouTube. And when I saw that the main character was Black, I was like in awe. I was blown away. I had no idea. And I talked to Chris a little bit later about it. I was like, I didn't know that Ben, like the lead hero, that he was a person of color. And that just made me so like much more interested in joining this production. Like, I thought that was really cool.
So for the actors, I heard Drew Barrymore talk about being in Scream, and that in order to maintain that elevated state of fear, she kept hyperventilating. It was like very hard on her body to stay in that state, and she doesn't really ever want to do another horror film. What do you find you are going through as an actor? Bev/Ben is a pretty level-headed character, so it's not like you're prone to hysteria in quite the same way that maybe Caden's character is.
It's been a little hard because I see myself more as somebody who would be in Barbara's shoes. I would be terrified if I was ever put in that situation, watching my brother, get murdered in front of me, and not to spoil anything, but just totally like thrown into this situation. It was supposed to be a normal day, and now suddenly you're being chased by the living dead. It's I think I would be terrified, and I would be just like her, just thrust into this like catatonic state of like, I don't know what's going on, and I just lost my brother. And so it's been a little hard to kind of put myself in the shoes of a hero or heroine, somebody who keeps their head on in this kind of situation and has to be a leader and fights for what she thinks is right.
Caden, what's fun about playing Harry?
I just get to be a huge jerk, mostly.
It's hard to do.
Yeah. It's been really interesting for me to explore that also, because Harry is, in his own way, a very complicated character, in the sense that every character in the film is like expressing fear in their own way.
His family is, intimately threatened by the situation.
Right. His I'm not going to spoil it. His obsession with getting back into the cellar and back to his family really has really stood out to me. Chris, you actually gave me a note that I really appreciated, where it was, who is Harry in the cellar? He's still him, but he's not the same him that he's presenting to everybody else upstairs when he wants to be right, when he needs to feel right in this really tense scenario. How is he reacting to that? What is his fear response when he's in more of a comfortable environment?
Kia, I'd like to know of a line in the play that really speaks to you. What's something you look forward to saying from the stage?
My favorite is definitely the part where Bev and Harry are fighting with each other. He's worried about his kid, and she goes, "Well, you're her father. If you're stupid enough to go die in that trap, that's your business. However, I am not stupid enough to follow you. You can be the boss down there. I'm boss up here." And I just think that that's really powerful.
Very good delivery. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
Terrific. Caden, favorite line?
Man, I'm less prepared for that than Kia was. I think my favorite is a little bit simpler. It's just when Harry's in the cellar, he's talking to Helen, his wife, and he just says, "Is she all right?" And he's asking about Karen, their daughter. It really shows the sort of like emotional drive for his character throughout the whole show. Mm-hmm. If you want a more interesting line, I can pick one.
No, I think you backed it up.
No, yeah, that's a nice moment. That's a really nice moment.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, their daughter, sadly, has been the victim of a zombie attack.
Mm-hmm. I think my favorite line is actually one that we added. We didn't add much. So like we're really staying true, other than like, we do have Bev as a female character, but that's one that we changed. So there's a scene, it's actually both of them are doing it, and Caden's character goes, "Look, sweetheart," and Kia's like, "It's Bev," and he's like, "Look, Bev." Like, it's just kind of this moment of like, he hates taking orders from a female. He hates taking orders from someone of color. But he does in a way. So it's kind of like this respect, but don't want to respect. And the way that they do that is just lovely. And we kind of came into that line, it was kind of happening. And then I was like, let's just lean into that and use that, because that kind of helps with our adaptation of changing the gender.
My guests were Chris Will, Kia Benson, and Caden Wilfong. Night of the Living Dead runs from October 16th through the 26th at the Pima Community College West Campus Black Box Theater. There's more information and pictures from the production on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.